If you're not paying super careful attention to Legacy, you might have missed the fact that Reanimator is a top deck in Legacy again, but it looks very different from how it has looked over the last couple of years. So let's check it out today. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today I'm going to use one of my Dealer's Choice donation deck lists to play Reanimator. And while normally this wouldn't be something super exciting, the deck has changed a lot, primarily because Entomb was banned from the format. And before that, Psychic Frog and Grief. Reanimator has taken some hits, and it is still here. It just took a little while to figure out what exactly the builds should be looking like. And one of the things that helped to bring it back was actually Raph and Mikey Troublemakers. It alone is a 7/7 trample haste, and when it attacks, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. You put that card onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So unless you are unlucky and hit another Raph and Mikey, that is going to lead into an Atraxa, a Grizzlebrand, or an Archon of Cruelty, all of which are pretty strong Magic the Gathering cards. And the deck has taken to using Shallow Grave, and this is largely because of Raph and Mikey. Again, if you bring that Raph and Mikey in for a turn, you get another creature. And at that point, it doesn't really matter if you did the Shallow Grave thing. And similarly, if you put an Atraxa into play and you draw all of those extra cards, or you put the Grizzlebrand into play and you pay some life and draw all of those extra cards, the downside on Shallow Grave doesn't matter too much. And the deck can really take advantage of Unmask, since it is capable of drawing just so many cards. Now, in the post-sideboard games, if you suspect that your opponent has Graveyard Hate, which is usually, you can just fully pivot out of being a Reanimator deck and be a Sneak and Show deck that also plays the unusual Stronghold Gambit, where if your opponent doesn't have a creature in their hand, this is effectively another Show and Tell. That costs 2 mana instead. And given that your deck is just absolutely full of discard, you can often clear the way for this. So you could do something like board out for Animate Dead, for Shallow Grave, for Reanimate, and fit in all of these cards. And then you supplement with some Ancient Tombs as well. I don't know their exact boarding plan or anything, but you could probably junk something like Faithless Looting without missing it, and end up doing something like a 15 for 15 swap if you wanted. Reanimator has felt pretty good from the other side of the battlefield, and the data that we have from MetaMage indicates that Reanimator is kind of good against everything that is popular in the format right now. Not counting the Mirror, it has positive matchups versus the next 5 most popular decks in the format. Now, admittedly, the stuff that it loses to, it looks like it really is going to lose to. But if you're good against the top 5 decks in the format, that is a really good place to be, and it's something that none of the other decks here can say. And this is part of the reason why I wanted to try this deck out in particular on the channel. One other notable thing from this data set, the sample size is not crazy big on Alurin or anything, but as it turns out, the Alurin decks are crushing right now, so maybe consider giving that a shot. So again, thank you to Alan for giving me a Dealer's Choice donation deck list to support the channel. That's one of the best ways to support me. And if you want to support me in another way, please consider shopping at toamagic.com for your Magic cards and use promo code ThrabenU to save yourself a little bit on your order when you do. I've got a Commander event coming up in like August that I'm probably going to go to, and I'm going to be getting some cards from them 100% for sure before that. So with that being said, let's battle. Hello, Phil from the future here. Obviously, this league goes really well. This deck is straight fire. It is very strong. If you're disappointed by the video length, don't worry. If you are watching this live the day that it comes out, today at 2 p.m. Eastern, join me over on the live side of the channel for a Celeste speedrun as a special treat as one of my donation fundraising incentives. Alright, enjoy the show. It's gonna go fast, but it's pretty darn good. Alright, what does my opening hand do? I think nothing. I can Dark Ritual, Thoughtseize myself, and not have a way to reanimate. I'm gonna mulligan here. Badlands, Faithless Looting, discard Atraxa. I don't have enough mana to immediately Shallow Grave, but this seems fine. I won't have a black card to pitch to unmask unless I draw into one. I think I'm going to keep this and get rid of the Lotus Petal. And then maybe sometimes I have the black card to unmask. My opponent has a little bit of range. Sometimes they play Goblins. Sometimes I think they play Doomsday as their other deck. But I've seen them on a few different things. Oh, that's just a bunch of land. Atraxa to bin. One fetch land to bin. And I'll pass there. And I've got Shallow Grave for Atraxa next turn. Misty Rainforest. So I can either try twice or I can unmask. I think those overall have the same effect. I think I'm going to unmask, pitch Shallow Grave, potentially take a Force of Will, and then be able to reanimate around a daze. I think that's my line. Good enough for my opponent to fetch in response. For a basic island. And it is main deck Flusterstorm. I'm just going to let that resolve. And shove. I could play things slower here. Yeah, but I don't think I need to. Game 1 Flusterstorm. Are we high-tiding? Catching basic island in the face of Reanimator makes me pretty confident that that's a mono blue deck. In the hypothetical world where it is high-tide, these are slower win conditions. My opponent is probably going to have about 2 pieces of Graveyard Hate. Probably Grafdigger's Cage. I think I'm willing to do the swap here. Stronghold Gambit is pretty efficient at what it does. So Shallow Grave, Animate Dead, reanimates out, and I think 3 Faithless Looting on top of that was my plan. My unmasks get a little worse. I lower my black count quite a bit doing this. I think on average my deck is still going to be faster than my opponent's deck. Fuck yeah. So if I draw a black card, this just sends Stronghold Gambit on turn 1 with protection. Hey, I drew a black card. So yeah. I think I want Grizzlebrand over Archon. Unmask, target you, pitch Archon. That is a Force of Negation. That's fine. We'll now get an untapped black land. Sorry, an untapped red land. And send Stronghold Gambit. Yeah. Let's see if opponent has 2 different protection spells for turn 1, because they need it. They're looking. I'm assuming... I don't know the exact numbers. I assume they have the playset of Force of Wills and some number of like Force of Negations, like some large-ish number of Force of Negations on top of that. All right, well, here we go. I'm willing to draw another set of 7 to see if I find an unmask. Yeah. Imagine thinking that Force of Negation was enough to make your hand playable. GG's, this was a disgusting first round showcase for this deck. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and I love them. I have over 1,000 deck lists here. And I think the thing that I like the most about them is they're more than just a basic deck builder. If you need information about your next pre-release or where you can get cards, they have that sort of stuff here too. Whether you need to manage your collection or just a couple of decks, Moxfield does it all. So go check them out. All right. My hand looks sweet. I'm on the draw. If we see a blue land, I legitimately might just move to discard and discard Raph Mikey, rather than Thoughtseize myself to get it into graveyard. Verdant Catacombs. Raph Mikey to yard. Seems great. Then next turn, I can Thoughtseize if I feel like I need to, but I'll probably just shove Reanimate, unless this is confirmed as a blue dual land. Opponent fetches. It is a blue dual land. Raph Mikey to graveyard. This is some old school Reanimator tech. Main phase Brainstorm. It used to be in slower matchups so that your Faithless Lootings and Careful Studies and stuff didn't get countered, that you would just build up a hand that allowed you to naturally discard it. And then every single Animate Dead and Reanimate effect is just on forever. I'd love to draw a Dark Ritual. I have so much gas in this hand. Do I have 2 basic swamps? That matters here. Holy shit, I have 3 basic swamps? Fuck yeah, this deck rules. That was a very, very long brainstorm from my opponent. It took nearly 5 minutes on it, so I imagine that they have a very intricate storm line that they were plotting out here. Taiga comes down. Beseech. Alright, it is Beseech. Storm of 5 is Beseech into Song of Creation, and my opponent has to pass the turn. They now have to discard that last card in their hand. So they did not have a deterministic Stormline, it looks like. That's what they were trying to figure out. So I probably just get in there, reanimate Raph and Mikey, and try to effectively kill them. A little weird lowering my life total, but this seems so disgusting that I just do it. No! Raph and Mikey hits Raph and Mikey. Unfortunate. And I already had the other one in the hand. Such is life. So my opponent was able to put 2 cards on top of their library with that brainstorm. So, like, they know they can hit here. Gamble. Presumably Badlands was not what they wanted. This is bad. Like, I lowered my life total and I didn't hit with Raph and Mikey. Pretty bad combination. Well, like, my opponent will be dead on their next turn. Because whatever creature I put in with Raph and Mikey will be enough power to kill my opponent. I never could have killed them, right? Does Archon do it if I hit Archon? There's a Burning Wish. Getting Boomerang Basics. On my stuff or your stuff? On your stuff. Mox Opal. At this point, I'm going to stop narrating basic artifact mana and narrate impactful plays. My opponent is going to just keep churning through that artifact mana with Song of Creation, each one of them drawing 2 more cards. And remember, they also do get an additional land drop off of Song of Creation. A few clicks later, we have a Burning Wish, and my opponent should be able to crack 2 different LEDs here. Or no, they don't even have to crack both. But they can just get another Tendrils out of the sideboard as the main deck one is currently under Chrome Mox. And kill me. And this would have been lethal even if I was at the full 20, unfortunately. We'll concede there to not have my opponent click through that storm trigger because it's a little bit of a pain. That was pod racing. I don't think I need to pivot here. I think I can just keep the main deck black cards that pitch to unmask and help disrupt my opponent. Sometimes this is faster than like the Faithless Looting routes. My opponent has Boseiju. I could go down on Animate Dead and play Stronghold Gambit because it's fast. I could see that being reasonable. Then if I have a creature, I don't need a Faithless Looting or a discard effect to put it into graveyard. Sure. I have a couple of Surveil lands to try to find something to do with the Grizzlebrands, and I can pitch one of them to unmask anyway. This is okay. I don't know that I want to play a longer game versus Storm. Like, I suspect that they are good in that longer game. See what's going on. I can take both LEDs here, and then they kind of can't use their resources at all. I think I will go that route. So this means that my opponent cannot use any of the cards in their hand. Mox Opal is not mana. They don't have 2 mana for Burning Wish. They don't have 1 mana for Brainstorm. This seems fine to me. Don't need that unmask. Grizzlebrand to Yard is fine. I'll hold this for a minute. If we go a couple turns and I don't find anything reasonable to do, we'll talk about just unmasking my opponent to take the Burning Wish. Let us loot. All right, there's Reanimate. That's great. So I will go 1 and 2. Probably want the Grizzlebrand. I guess it doesn't matter what order I put them in because I'm going to just reanimate. So I will draw 7 here. Nice. Wall Therapy. Target you. Name Burning Wish. This first one. Fantastic. Unmask you. Pitch an Atraxa. Take one of the Brainstorms. Call it a turn there. And then next turn I get to Shallow Grave Atraxa as well. Yep. All right. That was gross. Let's try to do that again. GG. This is just so turbo. I like to settle in for much longer games of Legacy, But like today we are just getting people dead. This puts a Grizzlebrand into play on turn 1. Presumably that's acceptable. And it even does so through one piece of generic discard. Yeah, I'm in. As a non-counter spell deck, this is probably about the best that we can do here. My opponent is on 5. In an Echo of Eons deck, that means a lot less, though. Lotus Petal. Gamble. Presumably for an Echo or an LED. Yeah. Oof. That's rough. We would have turn 1'd our opponent. Not a literal win, but sticking that Grizzlebrand and unmasking my opponent after they missed their gamble is certainly a win. And we're 2-0. This deck feels very good. GG's. So this is one of those hands where I could take a turn off, manually discard a card, and then reanimate. I think I'm okay with a turn 2 combo attempt. I will keep this hand. It does have the potential to become a turn 1 combo hand. Yeah, energy stuff. Yeah, all day. So now which one do I discard? Probably Atraxa. Get guaranteed value off ETB for if opponent holds up swords. Yeah. Raph Mikey is the most total value, but is the worst versus my opponent just having Swords to Plowshares available, as I won't actually get anything out of my reanimate other than losing 7 life. Basic Plains comes down into Voice of Victory, and my opponent has skipped their Ocelot Pride attack. We have gotten the oops in chat. Yes. I think I Dark Ritual here. I'm looking at a whole bunch of cards with Atraxa. They are not good cards, but I'm looking at a bunch of them. So, enchantment, land, sorcery probably, instant with Dark Ritual. I will Thought Seize my opponent. There's nothing. Uh-oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now I know the coast is clear. I can animate dead next turn. Animating dead Raph and Mikey and getting another creature into play sounds great. Opponent can play Sunbaked Canyon and immediately cycle it for another look at swords, which I think they need or they're dead. Literally or effectively. Absolutely disgusting. GG's. So this deck has 2 to 4 pieces of graveyard hate. And it varies a little bit. Like sometimes it's Grafdigger's Cage, sometimes it's Surgical Extraction. I don't like Stronghold Gambit here. I think I'm fine with Show and Tell and Sneak Attack. I will be going less quickly than in game 1. Hopefully that's fine. I don't think I like Stronghold Gambit versus a deck that has that many creatures. You'd get rid of Animate Dead and Shallow Grave. Cabal Therapy is not actually insane here either. So I could keep a couple of Reanimates and Faithless Lootings. Or go down just 1 Unmask is pretty reasonable as well. Alright, let's try this. This is a mana source short of just doing the thing on turn 1. I think that's fine. Plateau. Guide of Souls. Sure. Unmask. Pitch a card. Target myself. I think I thought to use my opponent first. We check for Surgical Extraction here. There is no Surgical Extraction. My opponent just fully kept a fair hand. I get rid of Amped Raptors that could cascade into Swords to Plowshares. So then Lotus Petal, unmask, target myself. I think I'll pitch the Grizzlebrand. I will take my Atraxa. I will reanimate my Atraxa. I'm very surprised my opponent kept that as a 7-card hand, just by the way. So I have Show and Tell in hand for Raph and Mikey next turn. So creature, land, or I'll take Ancient Tomb as land, Lotus Petal as artifact, which I already clicked on, and then Show and Tell as well. Done. Throw that in play. Pass turn. Opponent's Wasteland will not successfully disrupt my Show and Tell. I think you just have to spin on Amped Raptor. So now I can even check for Containment Priest. This is fucked up. So yeah. Swords was the draw, sure. So what am I the most afraid of my opponent putting in via show and tell? Probably Ajani. Probably Ajani. Lose 2. Cast show and tell. Put in Raph and Mikey. Yeah, you can have your voice of victory. I'll go to combat. I'm just looking to not hit another Raph and Mikey here. Everything else is incredible. Yeah, there's an Archon. That's disgustingly good. Yup. That was easy. I think my opponent had more room for play than what they did. I think they probably should have mulliganed their hand if they actually have Graveyard Hate in their deck or other anti-combo disruption. They're not playing Mardu, so they don't have Thoughtseize, but if they have Grafdigger's Cage, like that is something that would have disrupted my like early Reanimate line. But if they don't have a lot of Graveyard Hate, they could have Wastelanded me, at which point at least they put Ajani into play and force me to use the Lotus Petal. But we're 3-0. This deck is very, very, very strong. GG's. Okay, so in theory, I unmask, target myself, pitching a Reanimate, put Atraxa in graveyard, Lotus Petal, and Reanimate? Seems good. Who needs lands? And if my opponent is playing a blue deck, we again can take a turn to put Atraxa into the graveyard via just our cleanup step. Wooded Foothills. That's not a Thoughtseize. The opponent is probably going to have a bad time here. So now I can do this with a land drop. Do I now pitch Shallow Grave instead of Reanimate? Probably. Unmask myself, pitching Shallow Grave. Atraxa to graveyard. Reanimate Atraxa. Sorcery. Creature. Land. Enchantment. Instant? Done? I wasn't done. I had more reanimating to do still. GG. This deck is so much more consistent than I was expecting it to be. Like, I was expecting it to be good, but we are turn one-ing people a, like, very surprising amount of the time here. Admittedly, like, we are getting paired against some non-blue decks that are just going to have a lot of trouble versus this strategy, though, so keep results with a grain of salt here. My opponent shouldn't be playing much Graveyard Hate. Like, it's probably somewhere on the order of 2 copies of Endurance, and that's, like, it. It's potentially fine to just jam the Reanimator strategy into them again. I don't like Stronghold Gambit. I could board the other 11 pretty reasonably. Just hypothetically, get rid of Therapy. I could get rid of, like, Therapy Shallow Grave and run Show and Tell on a couple of Ancient Tombs and largely stay on the Reanimation plan. That would be okay. I could also just board out 2 Therapies and play a couple of Show and Tells. I think I'm just going to replay the Game 1 deck here. I don't know that I need to change. Like, I can just keep Cabal Therapy and name exactly Endurance. Alright. This can attempt turn 1, Thoughtseize me, Lotus Petal, Reanimate. Or I can wait a turn and Thoughtseize my opponent, potentially taking an Endurance. Seems good. Once Upon a Time happens. I'd love to draw a Dark Ritual. White of the Reliquary, which is fine. Oh, Jesus. Alright, so I'm just supposed to 5-0 today, huh? That's how that works. Thoughtseize you, look for Endurance. What the fuck is this? Severance Priest. When it enters, target opponent reveals their hand. Choose a non-land card, exile it. When it leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner makes a spirit token. Okay. That's all fine. I will take White of the Reliquary. Represents an out to my bullshit. Yeah. Thoughtseize. Target myself. Use Grizzlebrand. Reanimate a Grizzlebrand. I don't think I need to pay 7 life immediately and go to 1. Yeah, I don't. Because if I do that, my opponent could phase out my creature and attack me for 1 and I would die. Yeah, we're 4-0. Deck is kind of fucked. GG's. Alright, playing for a trophy. I think I'll keep it. I maybe turn 1. There's some question of order of operations here in terms of whether I just Thoughtseize my opponent immediately or go for the discard spell immediately. I think I just go for the discard spell to see if I can turn 1. Alright. There's Archon and Raph and Mikey into the graveyard. Let's put Raph and Mikey on top. I'll use one of these to Thoughtseize my opponent. The Wasteland's a little annoying. I suppose I could have used Lotus Petal first to Faithless Looting. I think I'm just going to take my opponent's Brainstorm and call that good. If they Wasteland me immediately, they're not putting DRC into play, which is the good news. Grizzlebrand is not what I'm looking for. Go ahead and just pass the turn here. At some point, I could, like, Lotus Petal, Cabal Therapy, and take 2 Lightning Bolts. I would really prefer to just draw a land and get them without using the Lotus Petal. I would like the Lotus Petal to be the thing that gets me to animate dead mana. Misty Rainforest goes to graveyard there. Opponent gets their redraw. Sure. I will pitch a Grizzlebrand there. I will just take the Force of Will, even though my opponent doesn't have a blue card to pair with it. That's fine. Do I want to take both Lightning Bolts right now? Sure. I don't exactly feel great about it, but it does save a lot of life. Because it's not only saving the 6 from the Lightning Bolts, it's also potentially saving DRC from hitting me for more. Name Bolt. Opponent has land, instant, and artifact as of right now. They could Surveil and try to get another. They could Bobble and try to get another. I don't want to see Corey Steelcutter. Ooh, Corey Steelcutter is the draw. And that Bobble then gets to trigger Corey Steelcutter. Now my opponent has a real amount of pressure. I did not care about the 1/1 that was in play. But Corey Steelcutter is going to spiral. Thankfully, I'm only taking 3 this turn. That's great. Opponent cracks the Bobble now. I am at 14, taking at least 3 a turn, probably much more on average. This is just going to be a Surveil land here. I know exactly what I'm looking for. Reanimate is going to be off the table very quickly. Alright, good. Another Bobble would have been disastrous there. So I'm going to take 4. I'm going to be at 9 after I fetch, which means Reanimate is live, technically. That is a Dark Ritual. That is not what I am looking for. Come on, Reanimate. Negative. So I've missed on Reanimate. I'm going to get smacked out of Reanimate range, at which point I do not believe I have outs anymore. Assuming my opponent casts reasonable spells here. So I am just going to name something they could cast here, like Flow State, and potentially keep them from triggering Corey Steelcutter. It's Force of Will. Not good. Maybe I lost this one when I didn't mulligan. I think my opponent is trying to cast a Murktide Regent. Nope, they are equipping Corey Steelcutter. Reasonable, I will take 4. I am at 5. That's an unmask. You've got this one. I guess I will unmask them and see if there's something fancy that I should know about, but I'm not expecting any Trixies from Blue-Red Delver. Another Force of Will. Alright. You get this one. GG. I now have to win both of the post-sideboard games, unfortunately. I legit think I'm just going to send the game 1 deck. My opponent's deck shouldn't have very much discard. Or sorry, very much graveyard hate. And the graveyard hate that they do have is probably Surgical, which doesn't answer everything forever. So if my opponent has gotten spicy and is running something like a Grafdigger's Cage, they might get me. But I think the game 1 strategy is just fine here. So this is a hand where I could like time walk myself twice to hard discard. I'm not overly excited about this hand. I think I will just mulligan it. Okay. No, we are on 5. So this is the karma in the mulligans, huh? Yikes. I don't know that I go deeper than this, but this sure doesn't feel good. Yu-Gi-Oh! Heart of the Cards. The top card is a creature. Believe. Get rid of 1, 2? One, I don't know which one of these is better. This is a like removal spell. This gains more life if it gets around the table. I'm gonna imagine that the removal spell is more important. Creature. Land. I'm just going to say yes to that, despite the fact that it's not what I'm looking for, because it represents a Surveil land, and I could just get wastelanded here. I don't get wastelanded, and it's not a turn 1 threat, so I get a little time to get out of the clunk. That's a shuffle. That's great for me. I will Immediately surveil. Spiking a creature is so huge. Yes! Yes! Into the graveyard we go. I'll now attempt Reanimate around Daze. I fully do not expect this to resolve, but the hopes is then that next turn I can animate dead around Daze. Alright, opponent had the Surgical. Unfortunate, that's fine. Again, there's 1 to 2 copies of that in the 75. And if they have that, they probably don't have cages, which means that I will just get to try again later at some point. They did not take the one out of the graveyard. Yep. I'm going to explain that to my opponent. Yeah, opponent just gives us the GG there. Alright, cool. We'll take the freebie based on the lack of MTGO knowledge. Opponent's taking it in stride. They're a good sport about it. Game wasn't over there, but my opponent absolutely would have been favored from that position, even if they don't have a threat immediately. I might turn Cabal Therapy into 2 Show and Tells here. Let's have a slightly higher density of stuff for if my opponent counters them. They're not the best versus Daze, especially if I don't board in the Ancient Tombs. But I don't think I mind having them versus trying to have Therapy hit versus Force of Will, Force of Negation, Surgical Extraction, and Daze. Yeah, this is absolutely fine. I can get my Faithless Looting countered and then work towards Show and Tell to put in the Atraxa. There's a little bit of a weird dance going on where if Faithless Looting on turn 1 resolves, but I don't find a reanimation spell, like, it's kind of weird. Alright, is Faithless Looting bait or is Thoughtseize bait? It's like, do I want a basic land on turn 1 or do I want a Badlands on turn 1? Kind of want to use looting as bait. Casting this, fully not expecting it to resolve. Alright, it's Force of Will pitching Force of Will. That is fine by me. The next turn, I can Dark Ritual off of this land, Thoughtseize my opponent, and then cast Show and Tell. Which feels pretty fucked up. We dodged Wasteland there. Ori Steel Cutter is fine. Opponent has 2 cards, and it's probably not something like Double Daze here. Dark Ritual. Thoughtseize you. Take Lightning Bolt. Cast Show and Tell. Put in Atraxa. Opponent gets their land drop. Then I do this thing. Enchantment. Land. You. Done. Lotus Petal. While we're at it, I'll loot these Gristlebrands into the graveyard while the coast is clear. Woo! Double Grizzlebrand yard. Either order Grizzlebrands. You can hang out wherever you want. Opponent could have something like Boomerang Basics that could get Atraxa out of play. But if that doesn't happen, I just get a Grizzlebrand on my next turn, and I think we're donezo. Opponent can now fetch and clear that Brainstorm. There's a Ponder. Again, some sort of Boomerang Basics or Brazen Borrower kind of card is needed to get this Atraxa out of play. And even if the Atraxa leaves play, like, I have 2 more shots at another thing. That is the GG's. That's the 5-0, folks. I specifically wanted to play this deck because I thought it was kind of busted and winning a lot. And scoreboard, it is kind of busted, and it is winning a lot. GG's. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Overall thoughts on the deck list. This is a really good deck. I am not surprised that this deck is winning as much as it is. I don't think this is out of line or anything like that. I don't think this is like, oh my gosh, you need to ban stuff out of Reanimator or anything. But you definitely need to respect this deck. I imagine that a blue-white deck would be pretty good against this. The counterspells to just generically stop both, like the Game 1 and Game 2 plans, and then the Swords to Plowshares to remove most of these creatures before they kind of get in the red zone and do the worst things that they can be doing. The pivot plan is kind of frustrating for the opponents, because they have to respect your Game 1 graveyard deck, because sometimes you're just going to choose to run it back, but then oftentimes those cards are going to be dead versus Stronghold Gambit and Show and Tell and Sneak Attack. I don't think I ever drew a Sneak Attack in the entire league. I think I did Stronghold Gambit once or twice and Show and Tell once or twice. It's a solid plan. I like this deck a lot. It was very strong, and even making a couple of small but noticeable mistakes on my end, the power level of this deck was still strong enough to carry me to that 5-0. So there's your educational video of the day. Grixis Reanimator is a thing. Keep your eye on it. Be prepared for it. If you can do something such as Containment Priest that can cover the graveyard and like the sneak attack, show and tell, Stronghold Gambit stuff at the same time, it's probably a very, very, very good idea to do so. Containment Priest stonks going up. With that, I'm going to go ahead and call it here, folks. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider leaving a like or comment on the way out. That sort of stuff helps out a lot. And if you have a deck you want to see on the channel, the donation decklist information is in every single video description. Have a great day. See ya!